The movie begins with a conversation, or rather a warning, from the main character Mallory, played by Sandra Bullock, to two children. She tells them that no matter what happens, the most important thing is to keep the blindfolds on. Whoever takes them off will die. Repeat several times. They start packing, and Mallory takes 2 birds for the trip, puts them in a box, and leaves with the children to go down the river in a boat. The next scene takes place 5 years before the trip with the children. Our heroine is quietly painting an oil painting when her sister comes to her and says, "Have you heard what is happening in the world? Turn on the news and all the channels say that all of Europe and Russia are overwhelmed by mass suicides. Everyone should stay home." But since our heroine Mallory is pregnant, she goes to the doctor with her sister, namely for an ultrasound. After the diagnosis, when she leaves the office, she notices something strange. Namely, a young girl starts banging her head against the glass, invisible for that reason. The doctors try to pull her away, but her eyes look distraught. Mallory has already realized that whoever was on the news is already in her town. In a hurry, she gets into her sister's car and asks her for a ride home. But the world isn't the same as it was 5 minutes ago. It's as if everyone has gone crazy. On the way, the sister sees something and starts talking nonsense about her dead mother and does everything she can to kill herself. She ends up killing herself in front of her own sister. Mallory has a panic attack and can't pull herself together, but soon a woman notices her and decides to help her because she has seen that she is pregnant. Her husband tries to talk her out of it, but the woman doesn't listen. She runs to Mallory and helps her, but she sees something herself. Her eyes get cloudy. She gets into the burning car in front of her husband and burns to death without making a sound. The husband, whose name is Douglas, watches numbly as his wife burns in the car. Later, Mallory and 2 other people, a girl named Lucy and a black man named Tom, are allowed into the house. Only the husband of the burned woman is not very happy about the rescued Mallory because his wife sacrificed herself for her. In general, a lot of people gather in the house, and everyone starts telling stories in turn about how their relatives and loved ones started killing themselves in front of them. Some start saying it's a mass psychosis or some kind of super weapon, but more interesting is the speech of Charlie, a supermarket worker. He says that he's read about something similar in books, about the end of the world, in different countries, in different religions. The description of this day is similar, and he says that the entities, that's what they call the force that causes mass suicide, have come for our sins, and whoever looks at them will immediately start killing themselves. This theory is more or less true, and everyone more or less accepts this theory and decides to tape and close all the windows to at least protect themselves from the entities. 3 days pass and someone knocks on the door. An argument begins about whether or not to let the person in. Everyone is frightened, but common sense prevails and they open the door, let in a young girl named Olympia, and she also turns out to be pregnant. Her due date is similar to our heroines. Later, a man named Bradley offers to look at the creature through a security camera, hoping it's safe. He's strapped into a chair so he won't hurt himself if the experiment fails. Soon he notices something on the screen. His eyes get cloudy and he hits his head, breaking both his neck and his head when the chair comes loose. All in all, the plan fails. Now they realize that it doesn't matter how you look at death. In order to survive, you must not open your eyes at any cost. At the same time, we are sometimes taken back to the beginning of the film. We remember the children's boat and the river. They are floating on the river, but in the distance we hear a man screaming. He's calling to our heroine for something. He approaches the boat and a struggle ensues. He tries to remove Mallory's blindfold, saying, "You have to see this. It's beautiful." Mallory fights him off and, thank goodness, keeps swimming. Then the action brings us back to the house. This is where our tenants realize that food and resources are running low and action must be taken, namely a trip to the local supermarket for food. The car is taped up and all the windows are painted. The most daring are chosen and immediately set off, following the navigation system and danger signals. Along the way, they drive over dead bodies, thinking they're curbs. But then the alarms go off all over the car. The entity is trying to get them. They panic and start driving fast, hitting all the trash. With some luck, they make it to the supermarket. They go in, take off their bandages, and start grabbing food. Someone goes for the alcohol first, but Mallory sees 2 parrots and decides to take them. Everything goes well until someone pulls the handle and asks to be let in. Charlie, who works at the supermarket, says he knows the man. He also says that the guy's a little crazy. As soon as they open the door, the madman screams, looks at them, and tries to break in, letting the creature into the supermarket. Charlie, making the hardest decision of all, sacrifices himself, pushes it back in with a burst of speed. There's blood under the door. I liked Charlie, but unfortunately he died. Afterwards they came home and told what had happened, how Charlie had died. And also Mallory noticed that birds sense beings, and by their behavior you can understand about their approach. This character will come in handy in the future because the movie is called Bird Box for a reason. Let's get back to the movie. The heroes came home and told how heroically Charlie died. Also, after what happened, Lucy and her boyfriend in the evening stole a car, decided to leave the house, so very much sent everyone. Next, things are quiet and very peaceful in places, but are disturbed by a knock on the door. Outside is a person, a man, asking to be let in. Olympia came to the door. Of course, she remembers being in this situation herself and lets the stranger in. She doesn't really believe it and wants to shoot the stranger, saying that no one could survive that long on the street without a blindfold. But the stranger says his name is Gary, he has a blindfold, and he's a psychologist at the local nut house. And he says that mentally ill people don't need a blindfold. They can look at the entity like that and nothing happens to them. He begs to be left alone. Douglas doesn't believe him and tells him to kill Gary. Douglas ends up getting hit on the head and locked in the garage. Douglas didn't get along well with the residents and was a pain in the ass for everyone. But if they made the right choice, we'll find out later. This is the beginning of what's to come, namely Olympia. The contractions begin. Cheryl says, "Calm down, get some water, scissors," and our heroine goes to get buckets of water, but sees her own water breaking. So yeah, double labor. Coincidence? I don't think so, but the most interesting thing is what our stranger Gary does. He puts on some music, pulls out a bag of his drawings when he sees the entities himself. This is the only moment where we see how the psycho thinks he sees them. He spreads out the pictures and starts drawing. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. He gets the birds and puts them in the refrigerator. Then he goes to the window and starts tearing the paper off the windows. Toma comes into the room, sees the drawings of the demon on the chair, and immediately realizes that this is not okay. Douglas tells him Henry is crazy. While he is playing with the cage and the birds, Henry hits him on the head and he passes out. Later, he stops by Douglas's house, opens the garage door. He goes upstairs where Olympia, a girl, and Mallory, a boy, have already given birth. Psycho begins to open the windows. Olympia unfortunately sees the creature and goes to the window. However, she manages to give the baby to Mallory and looking out of the window with crazy eyes, speeds up and jumps out of the window. Cheryl, with her eyes closed and holding a pair of scissors, falls into Henry's hands. Toy forcibly opens her eyes and she mercilessly slashes herself in the neck at the sight of the creatures. Thank goodness Douglas comes out of the garage, and with his eyes closed, he tries to shoot the psycho, and yet he hits him once. But while Douglas is reloading the shotgun, Henry hits him with a pair of scissors, and they fall together to the first floor. The damn idiot wakes up and stabs Douglas in the chest with the scissors, and Douglas is dead. Tom decides to wake up and still gets to the shotgun and kills the bastard, who kills 3 people in 5 minutes. So Tom, Mallory, and the 2 kids are left. 5 years pass. The kids are grown. The heroes find that all the supplies from the local stores and supermarkets have run out, and food is getting harder and harder to come by. Then, finally, a walkie-talkie connection appears. It informs them that there is a safe place. It is necessary to go to the boards, along the river, swim across the rapids, and then walk through the forest to the sound of birds. Gradually, they begin to prepare for the journey, but the worst happens. Cars with people arrive at the house. They don't wear blindfolds. This means that they are psychos serving the creatures. Tom gets out and starts to distract the bastards. From the backyard, Mallory and the kids start their rescue plan, but one of the psychos sees the heroine with the kids. Tom starts shooting at them and hits 3 of them. Later, Tom decides to take off the blindfold and save the one he has been saving for so long. The kids and Mallory. Going around the back, 2 more are killed in the back. There's 1 left and he runs after the kids. Long Tom can't be without his blindfold, and the creature finds him. But since our hero is content with goodwill, he manages to kill the last villain before killing himself. Then he shoots himself in the head. Basically, we're back to the beginning of the movie, where Mallory floats down the river, swims to the rapids, and still makes it to shore in the end. Then, blind to the creature's cries to remove the blindfolds, our heroes go to the sound of birds. The creatures, for some reason the movies never explain, can't stand birds. Finally, there's a door. They start knocking, and soon we let them in. They start checking their eyes, which is how we remember that you desperate people, they're cloudy. With the words, they're all healthy, they're let in. This is a school for the blind. A sorrow like blindness has become a salvation for them. In the school itself, there are many blind people and many sighted people. The whole sky is covered with vegetation, and birds live in it, informing the sighted about the appearance of a being nearby. Mallory and her children take their birdsill and release it on the water. The end? I hope you enjoyed my retelling of the movie, and make sure you give it the obligatory likes and subscribe to my channel. See you soon.